you know, like you're the best version of you. You have something to offer that nobody else does. So I would say don't go out there. I mean, you walk in the room, you see all these gorgeous girls, you're like, oh, you know, like I'm not the prettiest one here, I'm not the most experienced. Who cares? You're going out as you. Nobody else can compete with you. So if you go out and do the best version of you, that's how you're gonna win. Not
The glitz and glam is the fame, but it's the work backstage that makes the game. I'm Crystel and Mandal, your host. Come with me behind the lens and watch their stories unfold. I'm really excited for our next guest. She is another pageant queen, but she's not from Australia. She's actually from the States. She is the current Miss World International Mrs. for 2020, and I heard that she's been doing some incredible stuff. She's doing a lot of volunteering, and she's been very active in the community despite the unexpected circumstances that we're in at the moment. Please welcome onto Behind the Lens, Cassandra Wallace. Now in the pageant industry, from being Miss Poulsbo to Mrs. Poulsbo, then you went on to do Mrs. Washington?
yes.
Mrs. Washington World International,
Yes.
Miss World America, and now with the title that you're holding, you are the Miss World International Mrs.
Yes.
How does it feel to be winning all those titles?
It feels very surreal. Like if I'm like some days I wake up and I'm like, I think I need someone to pinch me. This feels way too good to be true. Like, how did I get this lucky and get this blessed to have all these wonderful opportunities? Yeah, it's crazy and it's so fun, and I never ever would have imagined that I could have taken it this far. So I just feel crazy blessed.
I'm sure you would have, especially from someone who wasn't expecting to be competing in pageants and to have all these titles and to be doing some incredible work with it. Now, in your previous interviews, you mentioned that you joined pageantry because of your interest and passion in community service. You're
Yes.
advocating for Fishline, the local food bank over there in Poulsbo. Are you able to share with us more of why you've chosen Fishline? I know that you've mentioned that when you were younger, you've had to rely on food banks. Why else did you choose Fishline?
Well, Fishline is super cool. It's a pretty unique. It's not just a food bank. It's like pretty unique in our area that it's completely funded by the community, which is super cool. And it's set up like a grocery store. So sometimes you go to food banks and they're kind of like dingy and yucky, and you're like, ugh. Our Fishline is nicer than any of the grocery stores in town, to be completely honest. It's set up like a grocery store. So you don't feel, when you're coming in there and you're getting food, you don't feel like you're going, like, ugh. You're in a nice place. And the really unique thing about Fishline is that they're not there just to give people a handout. They're there to help people who want to help themselves and who want to change. So, or, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, you lost your job and you don't have the ability to pay rent. They'll pay rent for you, but they also have the ability to then say, hey, let's help you beef up your resume. And if you don't have professional clothes to wear to your interviews, let's help you find those professional clothes. Let's help you do mock interviews. Let's help you move up. If you have the ambition and the drive to go be self-sufficient and do stuff, awesome, let's do that. They also run the food bank where instead of using money, they call them like fish bucks, but basically they're teaching people how to budget, which a lot of people don't know, which can be the cause of money problems for people that you really do have enough dollars coming in. You just don't know how to spend them in a way that everything gets covered. So they teach that to people. Then they also have like an on-site organic garden, like it's a lovely, beautiful facility. So I super love Fishline because my family did used to get food there as a kid. And so I'm very grateful for how they helped me in life. But also I love the idea of not just like fixing a temporary problem, like, hey, let's shove food at you. But instead they're like, hey, let's teach you, if you want to, let's help you find a job. Let's help you budget. Let's help you fix where you're at and if it's something in your power to change, let's do it. So I really love that about the organization.
Oh my goodness, that's really incredible. Especially when if you've been born into circumstances like in living in poverty, sometimes it can be really hard to get out of it if you don't have the right resources
Yes.
or the right people who are guiding you. So it's nice to hear that they're not just a food bank, because I
Yes.
know when you mentioned before Fishline, it was a food bank, and I was like, well, how else can they help people in need? So I'm really amazed and love the hearing about what they're doing to help these people, helping them get jobs, helping them with their skills, budgeting as well. I know that that's really important. You've mentioned that. And man, have you met anyone who's gone there to seek for help? How has their life changed ever since?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lady who was living in her car because she lost her job, and she didn't have any family in the area, and she came in, and I mean, she had her little dog with her and was living out of her car, and they helped get the doggy some food. They were able to help her find a job. She lives in an apartment now. She doesn't live out of her car. She's totally self-sufficient. She's not relying on like welfare or anything like that. And that's just one person. There's so many people that have come into Fishline that for most of the time it's not anything they did wrong. It's just you lose a job because of the economy or something like that, where it's totally out of your control. You're a hard worker, you want to be self-sufficient, but you're down on your luck. You just need a little bit of help, just a little bit of a boost. And it's so awesome that that's there to help people. So
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that it's really important for charities or organizations like Fishline to be doing these kind of works in the community?
Well, a lot of times people like myself, for example, if you don't come from a wealthy family and you do get down on your luck, what do you do? Like if you're from a wealthy family, you can call your uncle, you can call your parents, they can help you out. If you don't have that, what do? You're on the street, and then it's really hard once you're on the street to get another job. It's hard if you've never been trained how to do an interview correctly or how to fill out a resume correctly. You don't make it past the rounds to be able to get a shot at getting a job. You don't show up in the right attire to an interview too. You miss out on so many opportunities if you don't have the knowledge of what you need to succeed or the tools to get there. And so I think it's so important because it benefits the entire community, because instead of having a bunch of homeless people on the street, now we've got a bunch of people that have jobs and take pride in what they do and have their own homes. So I think it benefits the whole community because it takes people who are down on their luck and helps give them a hand up that they wouldn't be able to have otherwise. So I think it's super awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's really important to be able to give other people opportunities that they might not have otherwise been able to have access with. Now, aside
Mm-hmm.
from Fishline, you're also doing some incredible work with the National Football League in Haiti. Can
Yes.
you tell a little bit more about that?
This is something I've been doing since COVID started, and I'm so excited about it. So, in the US, we call it soccer. I mean, they call it football in Haiti, but it's so what they do is they go into super poor areas where, a lot of the kids aren't in school, and it's very impoverished. And they are going in. It's started by a bunch of professional soccer players, and what they do is they set up rec teams. So it's 20 weeks long, 14 games. They go in and they say, hey, we're going to have a team. We'll get you sponsored. All you got to do is show up and play, and we'll teach you how to play. And then if you're really good at playing, they line them up with scholarships in Europe or the US. They help them stay in school. They help provide educational opportunities as well. It's all to encourage the kids in these really poor areas of Haiti to get a shot at doing something they would never be able to. So they've never had girls do it before. They've only had boys because they've never gotten enough girls sponsored to play. It's only 25 US dollars. So it's really cheap for 20 weeks long. And so I worked together with with my best friend, Caitlin, and with some other beauty queens. And we were like, hey, we could totally get some girls sponsored. This is a minimal fee. Let's all work together. So for a few months, we bugged everybody we knew on social media and all of our family and friends and said, hey, sponsor a team, sponsor a girl. And then as soon as you sponsor them, they send you this adorable video of the girl or the team saying, thank you. And they say your name, and then you can watch them practice. And I'm super excited to say that the league is starting their official games. They're practicing right now. Their official games start in September. and there's enough for a girls league. So there's 144 girls that are playing that have never had the opportunity to do that before, that are from areas where their families couldn't afford $25 for them to do this. And they'll be encouraged to play sports. They'll be encouraged to stay in school. And then myself and my friend Caitlin are going to be able to go down for the opening games and cheer the girls on. And it's such an amazing opportunity, because I love the fact that these girls, and the boys too, they would never have had this opportunity if people hadn't sponsored for them to get this shot at changing their station life. And so it's been a huge pet project of mine, and I'm super excited to see it come to life.
That's awesome. Over 100 girls that's now sponsored to go play. I'm actually curious, how come it was only boys before and girls weren't being sponsored?
There's a lot of stigma in Haiti that girls don't play sports because they're lesbians if they play sports, or that girls don't do sports if, it's just something girls don't do. And so one of the things that was really unique about my friend and the beauty queens and I stepping in is we got to do a lot of videos, do a lot of like this interviews and chats, and say, hey, we're all moms. We did sports in school. Sports are super cool. We've got kids, you can still be a girl and go to school. There's a stigma on that too. And you can still be a girl and do sports. Like, it's okay. It's not something bad. It's not negative. So it's been a huge barrier with that. So we've done a lot of talking with the coaches, a lot of talking with the moms, a lot of talking with the girls to just kind of make that something that's more, more normalized to play soccer and more normalized to stay in school. Because really, if you are in a super poor area, education is your best shot at changing that. So that's why there's not been girls in the past. So it's been huge to be able to see some of them, because once if you start and realize it's super fun, everybody else is going to join in.
That's true. It just takes one person to do it, and everyone else will see, oh my gosh, that's so cool, I want to do it too.
Totally.
When you were going about breaking down this stereotype or the barrier in Haiti about girls not being able to play sports because it's just not for girls, how did you go about it? How did you and other beauty queens or your friends were able to knock that down and get over 100 girls to sign up and do it?
We did a lot of videos and a lot of social media. So a lot of the people in Haiti do have access to social media. So, we would post pictures of ourselves all the time, talking about how excited we were about the league, talking about what you can do in the league. We did lots and lots of videos. We, post pictures with our kids and our husbands and be like, see, this is really cool. Talk about our experience playing sports. I did soccer growing up. I did fast pitch, gymnastics. So I talked about my experience and how awesome it was and wonderful. And it just builds a sense of camaraderie and a sense of accomplishment. And so we kind of tied that into pageants too. If you play a sport, you're going to feel super awesome when you get your first goal. You're going to feel super awesome when you learn how to do this kick. You're going to it's going to be hard. You're going to have to work at it, but it's going to be very rewarding. And that can transfer into education. That can transfer into other areas of your life. So we just kind of played onto that, is that yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you're going to work at it. You're going to rock at it, and it's going to be amazing. And we're just super blessed that a lot of the girls were on board and we're like, yeah, let's do it. So it's really incredible.
That's good, because even if it's sports, it's not just sports. It's ticking off the health. When you're playing and getting active, you're also giving yourself a chance to just keep your mind off the things that aren't really worth your time, things that might have been negative, and keep yourself positive and keep yourself going. It also teaches you kind of work ethic sometimes. To be a good player, it takes a lot of practice. What are you excited the most about about their games?
I'm so proud of these girls for going out there and taking a risk and trying it. I'm super competitive, so I want the team I sponsored to win, of course. But I'm most excited to be there in person and to just cheer them on while they're playing. To be like, yes, you just showing up to your game and playing is just like me being able to say, okay, if I could walk across the stage, it's a win. You just showing up to the game is a win. So I'm totally going to be on the sidelines screaming all crazy loud. Girls on, I know all their names. I'm super excited. And that's what I'm the most excited about, is to just see them in action and to be able to see their faces when something that maybe they didn't dream about, maybe they did dream about, has become a reality. So I'm just really excited for them.
And being at least that person who's going to keep cheering them on throughout the game.
Totally, that will be me.
That's really nice to hear that you're doing some other work as well despite the pandemic. I'm sure that it's already stopped or postponed other plans that you might have had or other events that you were meant to attend. It's nice to hear that you continue inspiring other people, even especially young girls. Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about it because you mentioned in an interview before that to know that someone out there is feeling inspired about you, is looking up to you, you feel vulnerable. Why is that?
It's like, it's a lot of responsibility. I feel like I just never had pictured myself that way, I guess. And so I was at a fundraiser for Boys and Girls Club. It's a local after school care. And I was just volunteering there at this gala, and a girl stopped me and was like, "Hey, what's your best piece of advice?" And I like looked around to see like, who's she talking to? And she's like, "Oh, Cassandra." And I'm like, "Oh, you know my name," And so I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I know all about you. I've read up on y'all stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know anybody would like pay attention or knew anything." And so it was like a lot of response. It felt vulnerable and like, ooh, I need to come up with something really good to say. And in the moment, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you the best piece of advice I got. And it's not original, but it's been something that helped me. So I did. And I mean, I kind of talked about it briefly on here already, but about my mentor telling me not to be afraid to fail, chase after your dreams, go for it. And I think sometimes it just takes one person to believe in you that you can do it, to give you that push to go out and chase after it. And so I looked this girl in the eye and I was like, "I'm your one person telling you I believe in you. What do you want to do the most in life?" And she's like, "I like drawing." And I was like, "Do it, draw," And it just feels like a lot of responsibility to have people look up to you. And I just feel like I'm not really that important that anybody would look up to me. So that's a little bit of hesitation, and I feel vulnerable because I feel like I should have something magical and wonderful to say, and I don't. But
But sometimes it's those little things, little reminders that we know ourselves, but sometimes you need to hear it from someone else.
yes, that's so true. Sometimes just hearing something out loud that you know in your heart, but you're like, ugh, having somebody else say it can definitely give you that extra push for sure.
Are you getting used to it anytime? Giving advice?
No, I still look over my shoulder every time somebody asks that, unless they directly say my name.
I'm sure it's still one of those, jaw-dropping moments. Like, are you sure you want advice from me? But
right? I'm like, what?
From everything that we've talked about today, how you've shared your story and how you've shared your experiences and lessons. Honestly, I feel like any advice that you say to other young girls or boys, doesn't matter who, you give value and it comes from the heart, and that really matters. So, when it comes from here, the core of everything, it's always going to make a good impact on the other person on the receiving end. So, it doesn't matter if you're still, shocked by it, that people are wanting to hear from you. You're doing an incredible job.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so gracious and kind of you. I really appreciate that.
Now, also, aside from feeling vulnerable or not being able to feel super, super confident about giving advice to other people, what are some other challenges you face as a reigning queen?
Well, it's this year in particular has been very different. Like in the past, when I started doing pageants, I did a bunch of research on stuff to do. This year it's everything's different, so it's just been able to find stuff, being like, okay, well, so instead of being able to go to the 5K and run, now what do I do to represent my title, and what do I do to help my community? And so I've been able to just take advantage of social media platforms and the fact everybody's at home and bored and has lots of free time, to be able to talk to people and to find ways to help and to give back. And a lot of times it doesn't take very long to find something to give back. So it's been fun setting up people with different charities and different things that they can help with, and just researching different things to try and be like, hey, what can I do to help out with this? Or, I'll see somebody else that's doing some event and they need help. And I'm like, oh, okay, how can I help you, online do that? And that's sort of been the biggest challenge, is how to like take something that's usually done in person and do it online. Because usually as a beauty queen, I'd be at events every weekend, like I'd be in parades, I'd be doing stuff like that. There are no parades, everything's canceled. So what can you do instead? So that's where the football league has come in huge, because it's like, okay, I can't do parades, but I can find people to sponsor girls in Haiti to play soccer. So it's been just taking something and making it into something that works with what's going on in the world today.
So no matter, you've been able to adapt essentially
Yes.
to the circumstances, the unexpected circumstances that you've been put into as a reigning queen.
Yes.
What do you love the most about being a title holder? Do you feel like that it's boosted your volunteering and community service?
I'm not sure if it's boosted. I've always done a lot. It definitely has gotten me access into places that I never would have gotten access to before. So it's actually, sometimes it's hard to connect with, because charities are so backlogged. A lot of times I'd call and be like, hey, I see this event coming up. It looks super awesome. I'd totally love to come help. And I'd never get a response. Now I like attach a picture of myself with my sash and crown. I'm like, please take me. I want to help you. And I get a lot better response. So I'm able to go to a lot more events and a lot more charities and help out that I probably wouldn't have been able to before. And I also have people that are like in pageants with me that are like, hey, this is my charity. I've never heard of that charity before. And now I have the opportunity to help them. Sometimes it's just fundraising. Sometimes it's like sending them items. Sometimes, it could be a wide range of things, but I'm able to find charities that I never would have known existed. So that definitely has like expanded my horizon in volunteering as a beauty queen, for sure.
So I wouldn't say it's boosted, but it's just widened
Yeah.
your network.
Yeah, more variety for sure.
Now, in your volunteering, your reign right now, what is the core message that you're trying to communicate?
Well, to me, I really want to help everyone. I want them to succeed. And so something I try and encourage everybody is to just take a risk and to go after their dreams. Like, it's okay if you fail. It's scary, but guess what? When you fail, now you have the opportunity to learn what worked, what didn't work. So that would be the one thing that I would really hope everybody would take away from my reign, is go out there and try whatever you've been dreaming, but you've been too scared to go do or didn't want to feel vulnerable. Just go do it. So that would definitely be what I would want people to do.
And you're a living role model of that.
Oh, thank you.
It just goes back into, acting upon what you say and leading people on to do the same thing. Because as you said, if you just speak and not actually do it, what are you really doing?
Right? Yeah. It's your actions speak a lot more than your words do. No one actually remembers what you said, but they're going to remember if you did something that helped them.
Now, if you could change anything in the pageant industry, is there anything that you would change?
I love the pageant industry, but I feel like sometimes the girls can be, times girls can be like catty. Like, I think sometimes people feel like you need to smush everybody down to get to the top. And I mean, I fundamentally don't like that at all. So I think if I would change that, something to change, it would be that girls help each other out. My first pageant, I was supposed to go walk and I almost missed to go out because a girl behind me dress had broke and I was trying to sew it for her. And the other girls were like, oh, don't help her. If you're late, you're going to get docked points. And I'm like, she needs help. It's more important to me that that you're there for her and you support one another than like, who cares about a silly pageant? So that's one thing I would definitely like to see more in pageants, is strong women helping other strong women. You can all rise to the top. You don't have to smush people to get where you want to go.
Why do you think some people have that kind of attitude, especially in a competition that's focused on giving back and being really genuine and passionate and loving? Why do you think people have that attitude when they're on stage?
Probably just because they're competitive. They want to win. I mean, that would be my best guess.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes, sometimes they're really after the crown and they want to do
Yes.
everything that it takes to get there. Now, what
Yes.
advice do you have for other people who are aspiring contestants of pageants?
Go out and do it. There's a lot of really cool pageants out there, and there's a lot of really like cool platforms and opportunities for you to go out and showcase what you're passionate about. And like you're the best version of you. You have something to offer that nobody else does. So I would say don't go out there. I mean, you walk in the room, you see all these gorgeous girls, you're like, oh, like I'm not the prettiest one here, I'm not the most experienced. Who cares? You're going out as you. Nobody else can compete with you. So if you go out and do the best version of you, that's how you're going to win. Not going out and trying to be someone else. Like, you look how you look, your experiences are your experiences, your passions are your passions, but people can tell when you're genuine and when you're faking it. So if you go out there and you're trying to tell judges what you think they want to hear, like, oh, this sounds good, I'm going to say this, but I don't really care about it, I believe the judges will pick up on that. If you go out there and you're like, I'm super passionate about this, this is why I'm passionate about it, they're going to sense you're genuine, they're going to see that, and that's what's going to help you win, is your passion and you being genuinely you. So I would just encourage girls to not be worried about being different. Like I said, I always overdress for stuff, and I got a lot of flack for that. At the beginning of doing pageants, people were like, ooh, you can't show up at fundraisers in ball gowns. And I was like, I'm still going to do it because that's me. That's what I like to do. As a result, when the media would come around to do interviews, I would have the lowest title there, and I would get to do the media interview because I was the only one with a crown and a sash and dressed up. So just being you can sometimes have its perks. So I wouldn't necessarily listen to what other people have decided the rules are for you, because you never know, it might pay off to just be yourself.
That's true. And I'm also wondering, I know you've done so much already in your reign, but is there anything else that you're hoping to achieve?
I want to set a really good example for my kiddos, and I just want to encourage other women and everybody really to chase after their dreams and passions. I have a few projects that I'm working on. There's a few charity stuff that's been delayed because of COVID that I'm really excited to attend and really looking forward to. So there's a charity ball that actually just became virtual for the Boys and Girls Club that I've been working on since last fall. So I'm very excited to see that finished. And I just want to help other queens too. So it's just kind of my goal is to help other women instead of like smushing on people, just to help them. So anytime I'm offered something and they're like, hey, do you know anyone else? I'm like, yes. And I invite all my other queens to participate too, because I'm like, we all can have fun. We all can do this. So that's just, I would like to keep continuing doing a little bit more of the same, I guess.
I'm sure you will, and I'm really excited to see what else you do. Now, aside from the charity work and volunteering that you're going to be doing in the future, you've mentioned that you have another exciting project that's going to be on the way.
I do. I'm so excited about this. So there's PG Spirit France is a perfume company, and they reached out to me and were like, hey, we'd like to design a perfume after you and name it after you. And I was like, what? Like, no way, you can't really want to do that for me. And they're like, no, we totally do. So I'm like crazy excited to announce that in August next month, it's going into production. So the samples have been done, the bottles are done, getting ready to do my photo shoot coming up for the promo and advertising. And I'm like so excited. It definitely feels like one of those like fairy tale moments where I'm like, okay, somebody needs to pinch me. I need to be woken up, because there's no way somebody like actually designed a perfume and named it after me. So cool. So I'm very, very excited about that.
That's exciting. I'm sure you'll have lots of support, and you never know, those girls that you've given advice to would be wanting to have that perfume in their wardrobe. Now, just going back into...
Right? That would be super fun.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I also just have like a special question, actually.
Sure.
Because I know that you're doing a lot of work and giving back to people, especially those who are in poverty, and giving them opportunities so that they can make their way out of that, break that chain, and live a life full of abundance where they can be fully independent and not have to depend on other people.
Yes.
If you were to go back into the moment where you were in their situation when you were younger, what would you say to her?
I would just say to not give up. I mean, there were definitely times in my life where I put my own personal progress on pause because I felt defeated. I to go to college to get a degree, I worked 6 days a week full time while I went to school. I skipped meals because I couldn't afford it and pay my tuition. And there were times where I was like, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna give up. And every time it seems like when I reached the point where I was just gonna give up, there would be someone in my life being like, come on, you can do this. I'm like, I can't, it's too hard. They're like, everything's hard, suck it up. So I think if I could just go back and talk to my younger self, I would just say to not be afraid to take risks and to not feel defeated when you fall down, because everybody's gonna fall down. If you haven't fallen down yet, it's coming. But the cool thing is you also can get back up. If you work really hard, you can always get back up. So I think I would just tell myself to take more risks and not be so cautious, and to not be afraid of failing, because it's gonna happen. Just pick yourself up and try again.
That's true, and just keep pushing through. Sometimes you need to really believe in yourself. And also, if you know someone who needs that extra push, be that one person who's going to give them that support.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Cassandra, it's been such a pleasure speaking to you today. I've had a great time. Thank you so much for allowing us behind the lens to speak to you and know more about the work that you're doing. But aside from the work that you're doing, to know more about why you're doing it and how you got started, we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You were an absolute joy to talk to, and this has been so lovely, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be on here and to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
Coming from a family that weren't very wealthy, she found herself relying on food banks, much like Fishline, the organization that she is consistently and actively working as a reigning queen. I've heard today from her interview that she's already been doing volunteering work in community service from a very young age of 13. She's gone through to Africa to help volunteer and assist with the community in anything that they needed. And she's returned many times, and she continues to help the community survive their hardest and most challenging times. I've learned so many things from Cassandra today. I've learned as well that actions really do speak louder than words. Everything that she's done is really inspiring, and it's no surprise that she's a role model and inspiring many other young women or boys out there who's wanting to make a change. She's making a really big ripple effect with all of the community service that she's doing, and I really can't wait to see what other projects she's going to be working on in the future. I'm sure that you've all learned something, at least one thing from Cassandra today, and make sure that you continue staying tuned to Behind the Lens. Hit the like button, make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and following all of our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. And remember that the glitz and glam is the fame, but it's the work backstage that makes the game. And I will see you all next time.